So Britain has a new leader, one who wanted to stay in the EU, but Theresa May is very clear. Brexit means Brexit. Now, May is only the second woman to lead Britain, and like Margaret Thatcher before her, she is taking over the leadership of one of the world's biggest economies during national upheaval. So let's find out a little more about her, and Sarah Morris is following the story for us in London. Now, Sarah, Theresa May was chosen by the Conservative Party to replace David Cameron. We don't really know much about her because she didn't have to run one of those long general election campaigns. What are her plans for the country?
No, you're absolutely right there. There is a little bit of the unknown about all of this, but she did run a small, very short campaign before the leadership campaign was called off. And so we have garnered a few things about her, and she has some big plans when it comes to business and the economy here in the UK. Now, the first and foremost biggest challenge she's got is stability. Of course, post-Brexit, there's been this period of instability in the UK. We've seen the pound plummet, the credit rating being dropped, those sorts of things. Just the sheer announcement that she will be the Prime Minister and there won't be a prolonged period of uncertainty has helped. The pound has already gone up by about 2%. Now, it's still got a long way to go, but that is certainly a good start. She's saying Brexit means Brexit, and she's going to negotiate hard there. When it comes to Brexit, of course, trade will be one of the key priorities in those negotiations. But if we look specifically at some of the business policies that she's putting forward or she's proposing, then there's a couple of interesting ones. The first one, that she would like to see more workers on the boards of companies. She'd like to see shareholders getting a say in CEO pay. That's an interesting one. And also she would like to give the government some more power to block aggressive takeovers. So she certainly has an agenda when she appoints her cabinet ministers and the ones who are dealing with finance and economy and the Chancellor of the Exchequer are put forward, then perhaps we'll know more. OK, Sarah Morris there, just outside the Houses of Parliament. The place to be today, really, Sarah. Well, as Sarah was mentioning, there are a number of hints that May has given about her economic policy. Azhar Sukri now takes a closer look at some of those points.
Rarely has a British Prime Minister taken office during such turmoil. Theresa May is known for being tough on immigration and for her straight-talking, no-nonsense style. But she said relatively little about her stand on the economy until recently.
We need to reform the economy to allow more people to share in the country's prosperity.
Uniting the disunited kingdom will be her main priority. And she struck a populist tone by promising to put the interests of working people first. The vote to leave the EU drove the pound to its lowest level against the US dollar in more than 30 years. It raised the possibility of a recession and forced several property funds to prevent people withdrawing their investments. But despite the impact on the financial industry, she's promised to tackle corporate greed.
And it doesn't matter to me whether you're Amazon, Google or Starbucks. You have a duty to put something back.
Investors will judge her on how quickly she can bring about the certainty they crave. May has promised to abide by the vote to leave the EU, but some analysts have praised her for insisting that she won't formally begin the process until early next year. Delaying the triggering of the negotiations under Article 50 of the EU Charter would give May time to formulate a stronger bargaining position.
Markets do like certainty, and as long as Article 50 has not been invoked, there is uncertainty. But at the same time, by invoking Article 50, that almost adds more uncertainty unto itself.
And there are signs that May's policies will be welcomed even in continental Europe.
The first shock of the Brexit is over, and one knows that with the new Prime Minister, with Theresa May, we will get a head of state who is not as anti-European as we have feared before.
Possibly her most important economic strategy may be her promise to discard the push to balance the national budget by 2020. Running a fiscal deficit in the short term could give the UK's economy a major boost as the government navigates what could be a tricky exit from Europe. Azhar Sukri, TRT World.
Well, how does Brussels see Theresa May? Karel Lannoo is the CEO of the Centre for European Policy Studies, and he joins us live from Brussels. Mr. Lannoo, thank you very much for joining us on Money Talks. We just want to start with May's position on Brexit. She's been very clear. Although she campaigned for the UK to stay in the European Union, she said Brexit means Brexit. Is this what the European leaders want to hear? Some firmness, some certainty on the matter?
I think they certainly want firmness because we have seen the effects of instability in Britain over the last 2 weeks. They want to see a clear leader. However, there are two provisos. First of all, what we've seen for the last 2 weeks does not necessarily instill a lot of confidence. I mean, will May be accepted as the leader for now the next 5 years, as she said, until 4 years, until 2020? Will she manage to quell the dissent voices within the Tories? We also have to realize that within the Tories, within the Conservatives, there was a majority to stay inside. She was part of that, a minority to leave. So she certainly still have to overcome very difficult internal political questions. But then on top of that, there is this whole debate about this Article 50, this article which says which a state has to invoke if they want to leave the European Union, when she will do it. And there is a whole debate about this. First of all, can she do this alone? Does she need the approval of the Parliament? And then on top of that, how will it go in Brussels? Meaning we cannot negotiate with a country which wants to leave before they have invoked Article 50. So she may want to delay as long as possible the invocation of this Article 50 to leave the European Union, to start negotiations, whereas the other member states of the European Union will say, no, first Article 50, and then we negotiate.
Well, the indications seem to be in the United Kingdom anyway that Theresa May invoke Article 50 early next year at the earliest. I mean, she wanted to keep the United Kingdom inside the European Union. Do you think that that original position makes it easier for her to talk and negotiate with other European leaders?
That will certainly do, because she is an experienced politician. She was in the Council of the Ministers of Interior for, I think, 5 or 6 years, so she knows the Brussels machinery. She also came to these meetings very often, so she knows what is on. She also may have the confidence amongst the political leaders, but of course she's not known to the broader public opinion. So she's known within an inner circle, but she's not so well known out there, let's say, with the broader group of politicians. Well, so she's basically been working on very boring issues, like the press says it, I mean, and ministers of interior, but she's not been involved on the first plan.
She will want to see, of course, for Britain to have access to the single European market. What will the Europeans want in return?
I think that will be an extremely difficult discussion because, first of all, access to the single market will presume also free movement of people. And that's just the thing on which he was in charge before. The Brits do not want. And Brussels will be very clear on that. Free movement of people is full part of the single market. You cannot have simply pick and choose, Europe à la carte, only, for example, free movement of services and free movement of goods without persons. So that will be extremely difficult, and she may say, oh, we will use the Europeans which are living in Britain as a kind of a way to negotiate, but they need these Europeans living in Britain as well, because they are mostly, I mean, very capable workforce, or they are very rich people which contribute to British taxes. So I don't think Britain has so much bargaining power at the moment.
Well, that is a very important point to end on. Karel Lannoo, thank you very much for joining us from Brussels.